What are the range include and range counting? Ranges subject to range counting with given numerical values. So the number of ranges interviewing between the delta and the core is known as the range count. The technical employees of the Federal Bureau of Investigation count each with range with crosses or touches an imaginary line drawn from the delta to the core. So how do you count range counting? So the range count is calculated by counting the number of range interviewing between the delta and core. And the purpose of method, instead of considering counting only between the core and delta, an effort is taken count the ranges of entire fingerprint. When the range count is used as measure of all maximum pattern size on fingers, only the largest count from each finger is scored and their sum is defined as the total range count.
Range counting. If there is a bifurcation at the exact point of coincidence, two ranges are counted. If there is a bifurcation of a range exactly at the point where the imaginary line would be drawn, two ranges are counted. Fragments and dots are counted if they appear as stick to the neighboring ranges. The range count is calculated by counting the numbers of ranges intervening between the delta and core. In the proposed method, instead of considering counting only between the core and delta, an effort is taken to count the ranges of entire fingertip. Rules in range counting. First is locate the exact points of the core and delta. Second, count all ranges which touch or cross the imaginary line drawn between the core and delta. Third, never include the core and the delta in count. Count only those ranges which intervene or pass between the core and delta. And lastly is incipient ranges are never counted, no matter where they appear. The general rule is that in order to be counted, the width of the range must be equal to the width of the other ranges in the pattern under consideration. What ranges are included in range counting? Ranges subject to range counting with given numerical values are as follows. First is a range island or dot is given one range count. Second is a short range is given one range count. Third is a long range is given one range count. Fourth is an abrupt ending range is given one range count. Fifth, bifurcating range. If a range bifurcates or branches into two across the imaginary line across only the bifurcation directly at the point of forking, it is counted as two. If the imaginary line does not cross the point for forking or falls down of touching it, it crosses only the range. The count given is 1. 6. Range enclosed chores are counted as two ranges. When the imaginary line crosses or touches the point of bifurcation of an enclosure, two ranges are counted. And last is crisscrossing or meeting of two is counted as two ranges.
Loop. A loop is a prints that recurve back on themselves to form a loop shape that is divided into radial loops that is pointing toward the radius bone or thumb, and ulnar loops that is pointing towards the ulna bone or pinky. Loops account for approximately 60% of pattern types. Plane whorl. A plane whorl consists of one or more ridges which make or tend to make a complete circuit with two or more details, between which, when an imaginary line is drawn, at least one recurving ridge within the inner pattern area is cut or touched. Central pocket loop. A loop with a whorl at the end. A central pocket loop whorl consists of at least one recurving ridge or an obstruction at a right angle to the line of flow, with two deltas, between which, when an imaginary line is drawn, no recurving ridge within the inner pattern area is cut or touched. Double loop. Double loop, or two loops that create an S-like pattern. A double loop whorl consists of two separate loop formations with two separate and distinct sets of shoulders and two deltas. Accidental loop, or irregular shape. An accidental whorl consists of a combination of two different types of pattern, with the exception of the plain arch with two or more details, or a pattern which possesses some of the requirements for two or more different types of pattern which conforms to none of the definitions.
Divisions of a loop: radial and ulnar loop. The terms radial and ulnar are derived from radius and ulna bones of the forearm. Loops which flow in the direction of the ulna bone towards the little finger are called ulnar loops, and those which flow in the direction of the radius bone are called radial loops. So, on the right hand, radial loops slope to the left and the ulnar loops slope to the right. Loops whose ridges flow toward the direction of the little finger are called ulnar loops. To differentiate a radial from an ulnar loop, one must know from what hand such impression is taken. On the right hand, radial loops slope to the left and ulnar loops slope to the right. On the left hand, radial loops slope to the right and the ulnar loops slope to the left. Plane whorl. This is a pattern consisting of two deltas and in which at least one ridge makes a turn through one complete circuit. An imaginary line drawn between the two deltas must touch or cross at least one of the recurving or circuiting ridges within the pattern area. The pattern could be spiral, oval, circular, or any variant of a circle. Elements of the plane whorl. First is a complete circuit. Second is two deltas. And the third one, at least one circuiting ridge is touched or crossed by an imaginary line traversing between the two deltas.
Good day everyone, I am Mark Lester de la Huta, and today I'm going to discuss what are the elements of the central pocket loop whorl. So there are three elements. Number one is at least no recurving ridge or obstruction ridge at the right angle. And number two, it should have a two deltas. And three, no recurving ridge within the pattern area is touched or crossed by an imaginary line drawn between the two deltas. So as you can see here, in the example here, there are two deltas, the left one and the right delta. So I'm going to read the text below. So the pattern above is an example of a central pocket loop whorl. No recurving or circuit ridge is touched or crossed by an imaginary line between the two deltas. In this pattern, the left delta is outer delta and the right delta is the inner delta. So here, so there are two deltas, the left one and the right one, no? So you just imagine a line that which is that yellow line there, and it should never touch even one curving ridge or circuiting ridge to the world to be considered it a central pocket loop world. So that ends my topic. Thank you for watching.
Hello, good day. My name is Rich G. Ritaya from Bachelor of Science in Criminology, second year student. In this video, I will going to discuss about central pocket loop world. So what is central pocket loop world? So central pocket loop world, it is a pattern which possesses two deltas with one or more ridges forming a complete circuit, which may be oval, spiral, circular, or any variant of a circle. Or it is a pattern consisting of two deltas with one or more recurving ridges with no obstruction at right angles to the inner line of flow, between which an imaginary line would touch or cross no recurving ridge with the inner pattern area. So basically, it is a fingerprint pattern that has two deltas. The difference though between the central pocket loop world and the plane world is when we draw an imaginary line between the two deltas, that the imaginary line does not either touch or cross any of the ridges that form that circular or circuit pattern in the middle of the print. Therefore, and because that imaginary line doesn't touch or any of those ridges, it can't be a plane world. So it's going to be what we call a central pocket loop world. So here are the three examples of central pocket loop world. So again, the definition of central pocket loop world is it is consist of at least one or recurving ridge or an obstruction at right angle to the line of flow with two deltas between which when imaginary line is drawn with no recurving ridge, the inner pattern area is cut or touched. So as you can see, when you're looking at these three fingerprints, they definitely all have two deltas, and each they definitely have a circle or circuit pattern in the middle, but that imaginary lines doesn't cross or across any of those circuits, and so this is a example of a central pocket loop world. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.
Double loop world. This is a pattern consisting two separate and distinct loop formation, two sets of shoulders, and two deltas. Remember, two separate loop formation, two separate and distinct set of shoulders, two deltas. No ridge count is needed for loop in the same as that for plane loops. The appendage rule for double loops is the same as that for plane loops. Plane loop appendage rule is sufficient recurve consistent of the space between the shoulders of a loop, free of any appendages which abut upon it at a right angle on the outside of the recurve. S-type whorls and interlocking loops are not double loop world.
So good day. My topic is all about the rules in the loop world. So first is the loops necessarily do not have to be of the same length and size. So hindi dapat necessary na yung dalawang loop is pareho yung length at size nila. Meron isa na maliit, tsaka meron din isa na malaki. So hindi sila the same. So the second is the loops of double loop world do not have possess the requirements of the plane loop. So makikita natin na yung itsura ng normal loop at saka yung nasa double loop world is magkaiba talaga. And there must be two separate loop. So, yung direction nila is opposite. Hindi yung magkatabi sila. And also, the S-type loop whirl are not considered double loop whirl. So, meron din tayong feel natin is double loop whirl na siya, pero yung itsura niya is parang letrang S kung titignan natin ng maigi. So, and also interlocking are not considered double loop whirl. So, parang hinaharangan yung isang loop. So, hindi yun matatawag na double loop whirl.